Today's lesson is on parts of a circle and solving for circumference. The parts of a circle include the diameter, which is the line that goes from one side of the circle to the other, but it always must cross through the center. There's also a radius. A radius is equal to half the diameter, and it's any point from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. 2 times the radius is equal to the diameter, so the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Or half of the diameter is equal to the radius. Radius equals the diameter divided by 2. Another part of the circle is the circumference. The circumference is the outside of the circle. Circumference of a circle is like the perimeter of a polygon. It's the outside measure of the length of the outside line. Steps for solving for circumference include first writing the formula for circumference. The formula for circumference is circumference equals pi times the diameter of the circle. If we substitute the value for the diameter into the equation, we can solve for circumference. If given a radius, we can multiply it by 2 before substituting so that we're always using the diameter of the circle to multiply. We use our calculator to multiply pi 3.1 times the diameter. And we should always go back and label the answer with the correct unit of measurement. For example, if we find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 9 centimeters, we start by writing the formula circumference equals pi d. Then we substitute the value for the diameter, 3.14 for pi times 9. If you put that in your calculator, we get 28.26, and then forget to label it with the correct unit of measurement, centimeters. Example 2, in this example, you'll see that they gave us a radius. So, since the radius is 8, we have to multiply it by 2 to find the diameter. We write down the formula, circumference equals pi times the diameter. Substitute 16 for the diameter, and multiply it by 3.14. We get 50.24. Then we label it. In this case, with millimeters, since the unit of measurement in this problem is millimeters.
Hello, so today we're going to be talking about the circumference of a circle and how we find the circumference of a circle. So if you recall from before we went on our break, we talked about how the circumference of a circle is like the perimeter of a polygon. We're finding the distance around the circle, which is just the length around the circle. If we look for the perimeter of a polygon, we unfold this polygon and we can find the length of the outside of the sides of the polygon and add them together. So this is 16 and 16, which is 32. 6.5 plus 6.5 is 13. 32 plus 13 is 45 centimeters. Since this is just length, it's a one-dimensional measurement. The same is true with circumference. Circumference is also a one-dimensional measurement. If you think about the circumference of a circle, then what you're looking at here is to see if we were to unfold this circle. So here we have a circle. I actually took a can, Lysol, how appropriate, and I put a ribbon around it and figured out the length around the can. See how that matched up. And then I made a circle. I traced this here and found that exact dimension, made the ribbon the exact length around, and now if I take this and unfold this, I can find the circumference using a ruler, because circumference is found as the length around the outside of the object. So if I rest this here and here, if you look carefully at my ruler, you see that it's 22 centimeters. So the circumference of this circle is 22. You might remember that we talked about how mathematicians are always looking for relationships between two numbers. Since we found our circumference to be 22, we can now look at the diameter dimension to see if there's a relationship between the circumference and the diameter. So I'm going to put diameter here and measure that line. And when I do, you see that it is 7 centimeters. So let's look at the relationship between 22 and 7. If we divide the circumference divided by the diameter, we're going to find 22 divided by 7. 22 divided by 7. And we get an answer of 3.142, and it goes on and on, but 3.14. So let's see if that is a constant. If every time we divide the circumference by the diameter, we always get this number, then we know it's a constant number and we can use it to solve other circumference problems. I'm going to take another circular object, this time it's a water bottle, my son's water bottle, and use it to trace a circle onto this paper. So I get a pretty choppy circle, but a circle on the paper like that. Now I'm going to use some ribbon to see about finding the circumference of this object. So I'll put the ribbon around the base and I'll see if I can get it to line up. This is a little, that's about right there. Okay, see how it matches? And that's the circumference of the circle, because again, the circumference is the distance around the circle measured in length. So we can lay this flat. We'll take the ruler here and I'll measure the length of this line. And I get, it's almost 29, but it's 28.9 centimeters. So the circumference is 28.9 centimeters. The next measurement I'm going to find to see if there's a relationship between circumference and diameter is the diameter. So I'm going to find a point, it's hard to find the center, and measure across the circle, and I get approximately 9.2 centimeters. So now I take these two measures and I see if circumference divided by diameter, what the measure is for that. I need to put this into my calculator. So I have a circumference of 28.9 divided by 9.2, and voila, 3.14. So far we are seeing that this measure is a constant. When we divide circumference by diameter, we're getting 3.14. Let's look at this now. If circumference divided by diameter equals 3.14, how could we figure out to solve for C? We're going to use cross products to determine what C would be in terms of these two numbers. So if I do C times 1, I get C equals 3.14 times the diameter. Or we could say circumference equals pi d. So if we want to figure out the formula for circumference, we can use cross products. These often come in handy, don't they, these ratios with cross products. So we have C times 1 is C, and pi times d. Circumference equals pi d. If we take d, we can also write this in terms of the radius, because we know that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So we could also write this as C equals 2 pi r, where 2 goes in front because it's a coefficient And when we have coefficients, they go in front of the variable. And this 2r represents our diameter. So the two formulas for circumference are circumference equals pi d or circumference equals 2 pi r.
So a summary of today's lesson, we found out that the parts of a circle are the radius, which is a line from the center of the circle to the edge, the diameter, which is a line that goes through the center all the way across the circle, and the circumference, the distance around the circle. We also looked at the equation for the circumference of a circle and found that it is circumference equals pi times the diameter. Circumference equals 3.14 times the diameter. The number for pi is 3.14 because the circumference divided by the diameter of a circle is always equal to pi. And that is the end of our lesson.